I run a successful brand SEO and web design business that operates in 20 hours a week, and I have 5 employees doing the heavy lifting. And guess what? Only one of them is human. And I think we should talk about it. Also because it's kind of fun to see behind people's businesses. So today we are going to talk about who these employees are, how I've built them if they're not real, why my client work is actually better because of it, and for those who have bought Create It, Pin It, and Let It Work, I have a surprise for you at the end. Welcome to Coffee and Conversions, the podcast for millennial moms building something meaningful alongside real life. We're talking web design, SEO, Pinterest, and organic marketing, the behind-the-scenes systems to help your business get seen without taking over your life. I'm Julie, the founder of PNW Designs. I'm a Minnesota mom working full-time in corporate America, actually in finance, while growing my business on the side. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that growth doesn't come along from doing more. It comes from doing what actually works. Most of my business ideas start with coffee, and this podcast is all about strategies that actually convert, hence Coffee and Conversions. It's not about hustle for the sake of hustle, and it's not about pretty things that don't perform. So grab your coffee, pop in your headphones, and let's get into today's episode. So let's talk about the importance of a foundation before we actually talk about the employees. So I use AI for client work, and my pricing reflects that. Every word on a client website is not written by hand by me. I am not a copywriter, and I would love for my clients to hire one, but most of them cannot afford to invest in a designer, an SEO strategist, and a copywriter, and somebody who does branding. Because all of us don't have $10,000 laying around. So the choice is not AI written or handwritten. The choice is AI assisted by somebody who knows what they're doing, i.e. me, or do nothing at all. And for most small business owners, I actually then get to bring their vision to reality at an affordable price. And I really want to be transparent. Integrity is really important to me. So for all my clients, they know that I use AI to assist, but we're going to talk about how and what it does and all the things that I do to help it. So first of all, I learned all about AI employees from Callan Faulkner, who recently did a boot camp that was, I think, $97 and talked about all the different layers of AI employees. And it blew my mind. I had already been using Claude by that point, but I had not been using Claude to the extent that she taught. And obviously, I'm still not using to the extent that she taught, but I got way farther after listening to that boot camp. And I think one of the biggest differences in why I switched to Claude, for example, versus ChatGPT right now, as I'm recording this in June of 2026, it really switches your brain from prompting to working. Prompting, you type in a request, you get an answer, and you close the tab. That's a freelance gig. That's not an employee. When you build AI employees, each one has a job description, training docs, standard operating procedures or SOPs, and a list of rules that they follow every single time. And you can build them so it's a saved prompt, and in Claude it's called a skill. And that difference is everything. A prompt gives you a generic output, an employee gives you a teammate trained on your business. So if you are a Claude user, think of it as like this. You can build a marketing hub with project within Claude. And that project you can train using training docs and have Claude learn specific marketing strategies based on people you admire. I'm going to use Amy Porterfield and Jenna Kutcher as an example. Don't steal my idea. Anyway, you create a marketing project, and within that project, you're then going to create specific skills. We'll get to my employees later, but a really easy example of this would be you would create an Instagram skill that you train all on Instagram current best practices. And that prompt is saved of everything you want your Instagram to reflect. It's going to include your current content strategy. It's going to include the history, and it's going to have, you could have, oh my God, I'm like getting so many ideas just talking about this. Anyway, like you can have it study your past Instagram so it learns your brand voice and messaging. And then you can have it create like and know what your posting schedule is. All of this would be in one skill so that when you bring it up as an employee, you don't have to regurgitate that every time. You can just say, create me a carousel on XYZ. So I cannot tell you how much of a difference this makes. Now, it takes time to set up. I get that. But that's going from prompting to employing to really getting results with AI and really scaling in limited hours per week. So I want to talk you through my employees because I'm very proud of them. And even as I'm talking, I'm like, I need a notepad because I've already thought of more. But this takes time, and I honestly need to set aside like some days to just do this. And okay, anyway, I'm like, I have my retainer clients and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so employee number 1 is one that I've already kind of mentioned, but in a different way. And that's going to be my current content director. Now, I have a specific skill trained called PW podcast process, I think, that was trained on a 16-page SOP of my entire podcast publishing pipeline and blog work. It has everything from brand voice, SEO rules, internal link strategy, my call to actions that I like to use, the reading level I want to use, the language I don't want to use, the language I do want to use, the fact that I hate the word discover. It knows exactly what order to do everything. It knows how I like to do my SEO research because it then prompts words to research. Again, then I take it outside of Claude. Full disclosure, I'm not using a ChatGPT or Claude for keywords. But again, it's executing my SEO strategy. Claude does not generate it. An SEO strategist brain is still in the engine. I think the biggest thing to remember about AI, it's pulling from what is already existing. So you cannot differentiate yourself if you do not think of a new angle, because Claude is going to only tell you what it exists. So when it comes to SEO keywords, like I need to make sure I'm verifying the research with Ubersuggest or Google Search Console if I'm revamping an existing piece of content. I still decide what's worth writing. I still decide what to talk about. I still decide how I'm going to talk about it. But the fact that it'll tell me my entire process, and I'll get to like my real employee in the end, but my VA then can use that SOP, use that skill to create meaningful work, and I can outsource the crap out of this process then. Like it generates the Instagram captions automatically. It generates the blog from my podcast transcript. And guess what? I have no problem using AI when you're using a podcast transcript because guess what? These are my words. And then my words become the blog. But AI just makes them not right with ums. Anyway, so my content director is really my entire podcast process. That is something I've even proposed a past client to create for her because it makes my process from start to finish less than an hour or 2 per podcast and blog and YouTube and Instagram. Now, employee number 2, and this is the one that might pique your interest if you're interested in Pinterest. But my Pinterest manager skill handles all pin batches, populates my Notion cards, pins, rotates the pin titles, like it actually works in Canva, opens my Pinterest templates, and changes the Pinterest titles on all 52 Canva pages, manages all the call to actions, it writes all the podcast or Pinterest descriptions if you want it to, and it will organize and study my content on my blog to tell me which pins to create. This one is huge. Now, it's not going to have a design eye. This is content based. It's also going to prompt for SEO research. It's going to have you look at your Google Search Console and make sure you're pulling the right keywords for the pin strategy. Again, like, it does so much and it knows so much, and all you have to do is pull it into the conversation. Number 3 is my to-do list manager or my operations manager. I have recently switched to Notion for my to-do list management outside of my paper planner because Notion integrates with Claude. I still don't love Notion. I don't know. It does not work for my brain most days, but it's growing on me. Anyway, but I can prompt it to save something into my Notion portal. I can prompt it to save it to my to-do list. And so if I'm driving and remembering something for work, I can just enter my Claude chat, pull up the voice note and be like, hey, add this to my Notion to-do list. And then it can remind me too and be like, just remind me that this at 6 p.m. So that is obviously for my business side of things. Quick pause, because if Pinterest feels confusing or like it's way too much work, then this is for you. Create it, pin it, let it work. My Pinterest marketing course is built for business owners who want traffic without living on social media. You get done for you Pinterest templates, a step-by-step video training, so you're not guessing on what to create or how to use it. And here's the difference. This isn't just generic Pinterest tips. I teach real SEO strategy, 4 different approachable ways so that your content works harder and it lasts longer, and you can actually use this approach to create your long form content, not just the Pinterest pins. It's half the cost of the leading Pinterest course without cutting corners, and it's designed to fit into your real life from a mom recording in the cracks of my own day. If you want Pinterest working quietly in the background while focusing on your business, this is it. Learn more at buypwdesigns.com/Pinterest-marketing-course or linked in the show notes. Now back to the show. But employee number 4 is my personal assistant. Now, obviously an off-the-clock employee. However, the biggest thing that I'm using it for right now is my nutrition and my health. So I have been ordering Thistle. For those of you local to Minneapolis, it's a new local meal delivery service that is inherently dairy-free and gluten-free and mostly meat-free, although I order a lot of meat meals. And between that and my functional nutritionist goals, I am supposed to eat around 120 grams of fat a day, 90 grams of carbs, and at least 90 grams of protein, and 25 grams of fiber. Anyway, it's really hard to get to those if you actually track your macros, especially the carbs. Like 90 carbs is not a lot of carbs. So I spent an hour before I'm actually recording this podcast, so I did this today, talking back and forth with Claude about everything that I had planned for breakfast that week. Like, I have a go-to breakfast I eat almost every single day. Hyper-focus much. And then my Thistle meals that were going to be delivered. And then what we were planning for dinner for the week. And then I had it literally write out my macros for the entire week with actual information. And the beauty is if it doesn't know, or if I haven't given it the macros, it looks it up online. So if I give it the brand, it can pull accurate information. So it just makes meal planning and nutrition tracking such a game changer. And it's the only way that I've stuck even semi-consistently to tracking my nutrition. So I now have a project for my nutrition coaching, and in there it knows as a skill my macro goals, what I do and do not like to eat. And again, like, this is a work in progress. I need to train it even better. But as it learns, now it'll be able to quickly build meal plans for me based on my favorite food, which eventually maybe I can just convince it that it can give me sugar and chocolate. Probably not, but I would like it to. Okay, employee number 5 is my human employee. And I shouldn't call her an employee. She's a contractor out of the Philippines. Her name is Nicole. Hi, Nicole. She edits these episodes, so she will hear this. But Nicole is integral into my business. She works on average around 10 hours a week right now with a goal of growing those hours. And Nicole does everything from my social media. She does blog scheduling. So once it's written, she can put it into my WordPress. She edits this podcast episode. She puts that video onto YouTube. Again, we're not optimizing for YouTube, so don't judge the video quality. Like, hi, I keep forgetting to look at the camera today. What else does she do? She helps organize things, especially in Notion. She will jump in on, like, I don't know, basically everything I ask her to do, which is awesome. She's not really involved in client stuff, but she takes almost all of my admin work off of my plate so I can focus my 20 hours on my clients. So those are my 5 employees, 4 of which you can build for yourself. And again, you have to remember that every client gets their own custom code Claude project. It's not a generic skill that you can reuse and like just distribute, because every client of mine even gets a project that has their brand voice document, their website questionnaire, their SEO research and reporting that I specifically did and delivered for their web design project, my formal copy UX strategy document, which has like, it's an SOP framework to use for laying out websites so it helps build topical authority and is like built on best practices. Like, that alone completely changes the conversation around generating copy for clients. And that takes hours of upfront work and is the part that most people skip. And honestly, even that doesn't go deep enough if it was like your long-term content strategist. It's so different than saying, hey, ChatGPT, write me a homepage for a massage therapist in Plymouth, right? Like, I have specific client stories that I integrate into their copy, how they specifically say things. I would love to work with clients who have podcasts because, oh my God, I would have so much to train it on that their website would sound exactly like them. And again, I'm not selling that I don't use AI. I'm saying that I have trained employees that I utilize with all of my clients with a binder of everything they need to know. But yes, I'm still using AI to help generate the copy. And my pricing reflects this. I am not a $10,000 web designer, but you will get results like a $10,000 web designer. Okay, I will not say will, legal purposes. Anyway, I'm selling strategy, SEO work, UX framework, brand voice extraction, making sure that it is optimized for your clientele, and it's still on brand. And I'm not going to start it with trust me or honest feedback, because guess what? Those are also AI tells. Anyway, so, but even with this, you can tell like the strategy still matters. Like, you can have the best AI trained employees in the world, but if no one's telling them what to work on and you're not training it on your specific zone of genius, then it's not going to work. Your job is to tell them what to do. The employee's job, AI, is to do it. And for SEO specifically, someone still has to look at the data, pick up the keywords, analyze for competition, and decide what actually will win in search. And push back on topics that are saturated, even though AI thinks it's a good idea. It can't be automated, but you can simplify your process and get way more done than we used to be able to. So I promised a surprise, and here it is. If you bought Create It, Pin It, and Let It Work, I should know my own course name, Create It, Pin It, and Let It Work, you just got a new employee. Guess what? I have built the Create It, Pin It, Let It Work Pinterest skill for Claude. It is going to be able to work direct in your Notion once you link it. And it'll also be able to work direct in Claude for you once you link it. So the processes that I teach you in Create It, Pin It, and Let It Work to batch content in a month in less than 5 hours, you can now have Claude do and run in the background. This skill will be trained on my course. So all you have to do, you do not get access to it unless you buy the course. Now, you could choose to. I mean, I would still recommend you watch the course so you understand what the skill is doing. Again, you need to be the strategist, right? It is trained on the entire course plus the process. So it is like your little Julie in the background answering questions and helping you make sure that you get results with Pinterest. So check your email. When this episode comes out, I will be emailing it to those who have bought Create It, Pin It, and Let It Work. If you have not bought the course, guess what? There is a link in the show notes. The skill alone is worth it because it's an entire course in the skill, and you can start creating those pins from the long form content I talked about on last episode. So, again, you don't need more time, more discipline. or to clone yourself, although that would be cool, and I have talked about that. But you need a team eventually. I have gotten to the point where my business where I need a team. Not only do I have at least 4 AI employees, I have one VA who works 10 hours a week, and I will soon have a second VA. And I'm trying to scale my other VA up to 20 hours a week with one of my retainer clients as well. So remember, invest the time to train your AI employees, and each AI employee should literally have one job description. Instagram, Pinterest, email marketing, like not all of the things, one each, so that you call it in as you're doing those specific tasks and you can go extremely deep on the training. So, my call to action for you, go to YouTube, learn how to create an employee, and create your first employee. Or check out Callan's Bootcamp the next time she launches it, because it was really amazing. And she's a fellow Minnesota entrepreneur who is just killing it. And don't forget to grab the Pinterest course with your new skill, and check your email if you bought the course in the past for your free Pinterest Claude skill. If you have any questions, if you want to chat about it, DM me on Instagram. And until next time, keep on drinking that coffee. Thanks. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Coffee and Conversions. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate every single person who listens. If this episode helped you think differently about your business, I'd love if you left a rating and review or shared it with a friend who is running a business alongside you, because community is everything. It's the easiest way to help this podcast reach more women who want a strategy that actually works. You can find links, resources, and anything mentioned in today's episode in the show notes. For more tools, services, and behind-the-scenes strategy, head over to buypwdesigns.com. And if you want to peek into my real life, corporate job, mom life, running a business, and really just like the true me, you can find me at Instagram over at julie.pwdesigns, and I hang out there most days. Until next time, keep on building intentionally, and I will see you back here at Coffee and Conversions.